Welcome to Chapter 2 of this masterclass discussion on bank collaboration. My name is Brian Caplen. I'm editor of The Banker. Here with me is Satvinder Singh from Global Transaction Banking at Deutsche. And we've been talking about the different ways in which banks can work together and the benefits this can bring to all parties. Satvinder, we're now going to talk about the practicalities. So a group of banks, we want to set up some kind of collaboration together. But, you know, it's a bit of a minefield, isn't it? I mean, there's all kinds of rivalries and legal worries involved. I mean, how do we go about it?
I think the first and foremost is making sure there's a meeting of minds. What are we trying to solve for? What is the end game? What does success look like? What are some of the hurdles in between? And that's where you then, once you have that overall framework of understanding of what we're trying to solve for, then you'd bring in the practicalities of the legal documentation, the agreements in place. But the most important thing is making sure we're all aligned in the same direction. We're all solving the same issue. We've got the client in the middle, and we're all working around it. If that's not the case, this will not end up with the right result, and there'll be a lot of wasted calories on it.
And in the current crisis, post-financial crisis, I mean, are banks more likely to decide that collaboration would be a good idea, and they're more amenable to sitting down and having these kinds of discussions?
I think all banks today are in a resource-constrained environment. So that's always going to be a good enabler for these conversations. So in an environment where you want to be more relevant from a client perspective, in an environment where you want to expand market share, in an environment where you want to give more product choice to clients, at the same time, an environment where resources are constrained is, in my mind, the perfect environment to have a conversation around collaboration with partners, creating industry utilities, and making sure we can still continue to grow in an environment that may be challenged.
Okay, all right, so now we've sat around the table with our fellow bankers, we've agreed there's going to be some kind of collaboration or partnership, and now we're going to have to call in the lawyers and the regulators and the competition authorities to make sure that we're not doing something that we shouldn't be doing. Is that right?
That is true. All of those are necessary steps, but I'll say what I said earlier on. Make sure you're aligned first. Make sure you're solving the right problem. Then absolutely the regulators need to approve whatever we're doing. If it's an industry utility, if it's a collaboration between multiple partners, then it's a different aspect. But if it's collaboration around working with the regulators, it's again making sure the regulators know why we're doing that, what voice we're going to pitch, who we're going to represent. So in debates around, for example, FATCA, EMIR, Dodd-Frank, making sure that the industry bodies that we are collaborating with represent the industry and the regulators are comfortable getting the opinions from them.
Yeah. But I mean, sure, I mean, banks, we know they're hugely competitive. I mean, are they ever really going to feel totally happy in this kind of environment? Isn't there always a little bit of distrust, worrying what that Bank A is sort of outdoing Bank B?
Absolutely. And that's a great question, because the perception is always we compete more than we collaborate. And I think that perception has stayed with the industry for far too long. The question we've got to ask ourselves is, what part of the value chain that we provide our clients is absolutely sacrosanct from an institutional perspective? Are we outsourcing or collaborating on something that's completely true to what value we provide the client? If it is, I see what you're saying. However, if part of the value chain contains things that are important to deliver to the client, but not necessarily what the client pays us for, if the conversation on collaboration is around that aspect of the value chain, you'll have a much more collaborative conversation around it, and you will reach the right result. However, making sure you're focused, and it goes back to something I said earlier about the interests being aligned. There is no way you will get banks to collaborate on things that they hold dear from a client perspective, and what clients actually pay them for as well.
Okay. I mean, this is somewhat of a new game for banking in some ways. I mean, I know you've said it's always gone on, but it's certainly being up to the ante at the very moment. But, I mean, can banks and banking learn from other industries that have engaged in collaborative arrangements?
So I think if you look at banking per se, a huge amount of collaboration on the security side, huge amount of collaboration on the retail banking side, for example. ATMs. You can easily now go in, irrespective of the bank you hold an account, and use somebody else's ATM. So that collaboration is there in banking. Are we a fast follower in terms of other industries? I say we are. If you look at the airline industry, a huge amount of collaboration from every end of the spectrum. Collaboration in terms of manufacturing, collaboration in terms of loyalty programs, collaboration in terms of code shares, collaboration in terms of alliances. All of that exists today. Why? Because they were under significant pressure. The industry as such had to redefine itself to remain relevant from a client perspective and also remain profitable. Similar trends if you see in the automobile industry, where if you look at Volkswagen and look at the Q7 Audi and Volkswagen Touareg, common platforms. Now it's part of a common group as well, but even before they were part of the common group, they were sharing the production facilities. And I think that's the broad-minded openness required to redefine your industry to remain relevant.
Okay, Satvinder, we've looked at the practicalities of how you put a partnership or collaboration agreement together. In a minute, we're going to have a look at how we can innovate under those agreements.
Thank you, Brian.